I wanted to actually discuss this with you. This is a serious subject. We're going from funny to serious.
But on locals?
Yes, we're going funny to serious. Because I want to see if there's anything to this. All right, so let's play this. Serious guys, stop it. Go in serious mode.
Both a nightmare and a perfect opportunity has fallen into Moscow's lap. Their enemy, the true Rome, has elected an American pontiff. The enemies of the West and pretenders of orthodoxy are now able to connect Catholicism with their enemy, the United States. They've been coalition building with Catholics for a decade by highlighting the left-wing disorientation of the former Pope. Now their narratives are going to be able to unite their hatred of Catholicism to their hatred of the United States. Not only is the Vicar of Christ an American, he is pro-Ukraine and called Russia wicked. What are the Muscovite propagandists in Catholic clothing going to do with this? Alexander Dugin, speaking to a Polish journalist in 1998, gives hints of how the Russian special services handle Catholicism in Poland. He says, Poland must choose an identity, either Slavic or Catholic. If it remains Catholic, it will become a conflict zone. He says that it is necessary to break down Catholicism from the inside. Strengthen Polish Freemasonry, support secular movements, promote heterodox and anti-papal Christianity. Catholicism cannot be absorbed by our tradition unless it is deeply reoriented towards nationalist and anti-papal. Reorient Catholicism toward a heterodox and even esoteric direction. They use the same methods for the worldwide church as Dugin outlined, subverting
Is this
Polish
what Belladad was
Catholicism.
talking about?
He mentioned using only left-wing.
Dude, this is a long video.
Yeah, I only watched up to like this point, and I was like, "Ooh, this is actually intriguing." Like, isn't this what Belladad was talking about? Like talking about infiltrating the church, and then so like now there's an American Pope, and like America's at war, essentially at war with Moscow.
Yeah.
And the other thing I watched.
To be fair, though, that's
okay.
It's not really Moscow's fault. It's America's fault.
Yeah, no, I don't deny that. I agree with that.
Right.
But that, so remember the last show I said to you, I said the things I actually worry about with Leo are because he's an American, and if he does lean liberal, like he probably, because he's already spoken out about Ukraine, and he's called Russia's war a war of aggression and things like that. So now he's the Pope. How does he remain neutral after those comments? I hope he does, because it's just an interesting dynamic that I
so the Soviet Union fell in the sense that like they got rid of communism, right? But it was because Gorbachev in his program that's called Glasnost, which is means more or less like opening. Like they realized communism had failed, and what Gorbachev was attempting to do was slowly and carefully shed the communist economy, right, for a more open, I wouldn't say completely free market, but for a more open economy to get more money to where Russia is very much authoritarian by nature. They just are. It's the people that likes having a strong leader, whereas Americans, we are very, I don't mean libertarian and like the political
revolutionary
sense,
at heart.
We're
like
very individualist, in nature, by nature. So Russia, communism might be gone, but the Soviet Union mentality is still there. and I don't think it can ever really be shed until they restore some sort of monarchy, because the Russian monarchy actually always had a very close working relationship with a lot of Catholic monarchies, especially with the Habsburg monarchy in Austria that had deteriorated somewhat prior to the World War One, but in like the 1800s they were part of the Holy League, right, and things like that with Austria. So I think, I don't think like the Russian people are necessarily an enemy of the American people, and I don't think even the Russian church is inherently an enemy of like the Catholic Church. I mean, they obviously, they are in schism and in some heresy and stuff, obviously, but I think if they were to restore a monarchy and not have their church under control of
Moscow.
more or less the remnants of what was the KGB, I think there'd be a lot more of a better chance for peace.
Yeah, I think man, this all just goes to, because the other thing I watched today was Ross Douthat. Ross Douthat is a New York Times columnist, but he's Catholic, and he had a conversation with a guy about AI, and the way this guy was talking about AI. If you guys haven't checked that conversation out, it's just look up Ross Douthat's channel. It was one of the most intense conversations I've ever heard, man. Like this guy was talking about how the things that are going to happen with AI in the next few years, and just how power is going to congregate around very few people. Like it's going to be, which is like amazing that Pope Leo is going to address these issues. And that's kind of what I was talking about, how like, regardless of who the man Robert Prevost was, the world events that are going to happen in the next few years can shape Leo the 14th very differently than he may have intention of going into this papacy. Like he may think he's going to do one thing, and then world events could coalesce around him where he just goes, whoa. Because the thing is, yes, there's a sense of calm in the church right now that hasn't been there in a while, but that doesn't change my opinion of the things that are happening in the world. Like the world seems like like humanity seems like it's racing toward a cliff right now.
Yeah,
we've talked about this so many times, right? Where it's like whether it's the end of everything or just the end of the American story, because man, things are so tense throughout the entire world right now. It's like, I really do think world events are going to shape this man in a way that maybe he will be the Pope of Restoration because of those events. We don't know. Like, we don't know what God has in store. I just know that God will be, and he will very much guide his church.
I think we're going to find that the real problem with AI isn't going to be some AI becoming sentient and pulling a Skynet on us. I think the real problem we're going to find with AI is like you said, those who control AI are going to become, technocrats like we've never seen.
Yeah.
It's not going to so much be,
it's not going to be Facebook
America
and Twitter
versus Russia versus China. It might be people like Elon Musk versus Sam Altman versus whoever has AI in China. Like you might have whoever's running AI in China take over the Chinese Communist Party or something like that. I mean, I think we're going to find it's not going to be nations versus nations. It's going to be
oligarch versus oligarch. And
right.
That's what this guy was saying. He's saying like power is going to coalesce around whoever is running these AIs. He also did talk the Skynet stuff too. He's like, what if like the AI just goes off on its own and decides to launch all our nuclear weapons? Because there is a danger in AI having control of all of our military systems. But I don't know.
But it's not going to be us as America giving control of those systems to AI. It's going to be one or two individuals doing that at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a deep topic. It was just a pretty crazy one.
Gunner says, I didn't expect my cyberpunk dystopia to be so gay. Right? Blade Runner made it seem cool. It's really just gay.
It's just nuts, the world we're living in, man. And I've resigned myself to just allow God to be God at this point and just say, I'm not going to be able to predict what's happening in the church, clearly.
Right.
But I do think world events could very much dictate what happens in the church, and that the church will respond to the call that's necessary, because the church always does.
Can
So-
you imagine how badass it would be if Leo leads a new crusade against our AI overlords?
That would be pretty cool.